So we'll start with England's governmental structure.
Hmm.
It's very different from the U.S., and one of the
Hmm.
reasons the U.S. is the way that it is
Yep.
kind of a backlash, or let's try and not do what England is doing.
Hmm.
How does England's governmental structure work?
Okay, so that's really interesting, and there are obviously aspects of the English parliamentary system that came across to the U.S. So one of the things that you will see is things like the House of Representatives and the Senate are very much based on the British House of Commons and the House of Lords. But yeah, there are a lot of differences, and the major difference is the lack of separation of powers that the United States has. So, as you're aware, the United States has three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and judicial, and all of them are designed to hold different roles, different powers, to be a check and balance on the other branches of government. In the UK, originally, all power was vested in the Crown. So the King of England ruled essentially as an absolute monarch. That changed around that slowly evolved around the time of King John, starting from King John with the Magna Carta. Where he was at the end of a rebellion from his barons. One of the terms of peace was that he would consult with a group of barons if he was going to pass any laws or pass any taxes, particularly taxes. But that's evolved into a parliamentary system. And as the power of the crown diminished particularly in the late 18th century, the Parliament became the primary legislature, the primary mover of any laws that happen in the country. And so the primary political legal figure stopped being the king or the queen and started to become the prime minister. The leader of Parliament, and the result of that is that the House of Commons, the equivalent of the House of Representatives in the United States, has become a almost unitary branch of government. In other words, what they decide pretty much happens, which leads to interesting conflagrations. The particularly noticeable one was recently in an election in 2019. Boris Johnson and his Conservative Party won in a landslide election where they controlled around 3/4 of the seats in Parliament, give the Conservatives a really strong majority, essentially free rein to do whatever they want. Of course, 2019 leads into 2020, and one of the major problems that the United Kingdom had was there was no effective opposition, no one who could really stop what government wanted to do, and no structure to be able to put any brakes on what was happening. And so some of the responses to COVID in the United Kingdom seem incredibly draconian compared to what was happening in the United States, or at the very least, if it was happening in the United States, it was very localized municipalities, New York or Los Angeles, and most of the country was left relatively alone for the most part. But that's a quirk of the system. So essentially, the crown is still at the head, but functionally in the United Kingdom, everything is run through the House of Commons.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, and the difference between the House of Commons and the House of Lords
Correct.
is there's more people in the House of Commons, I would assume, based off the...
Yeah, more people in the House of Commons. Also, the House of Lords is entirely for hereditary or appointed peers. So it's not popularly elected.
Right. Thus the Lords.
Yeah, exactly. The name suggests itself. Again, I don't know how much of the history you want of this, but it was around the time of actually Irish independence where the Lords were being a little bit obstinate. So it used to be very similar to the Senate, where if you've if you're experienced with Schoolhouse Rock, you know that the Senate can actually block bills entirely. So any bill going through the United States federal system has to be passed by the House of Representatives and passed by the Senate. When the passage of what was called the Act of Dominion for the Irish independence in 1912 through to 1921, many of the House of Lords were blocking that bill, which led to a passage of a bill that restricted the power of the House of Lords. So now the House of Lords is only able to hold up a bill for a maximum of 2 years, and then it is passed by whatever the consent of the House of Commons is. So that's the primary difference. And again, that means that the House of Commons is very much there's other branches around there, but effectively there's no effective check and balance on what the House of Commons does.
Right.